Hello, STEM girlies! Welcome back to Computer SHeience, the podcast that connects ambitious and driven girls just like you to the trailblazing women of STEM. Our guest for today is an incoming freshman into Harvard University, Siya Patel. Currently studying at Anderson High School, Siya plans to explore bioengineering and business in college. So whether you're exploring a career in STEM or just looking for inspiration, this episode is packed with wisdom you won't want to miss. Grab your drinks, grab your matcha, and let's get ready to hear all about Sia's incredible journey, experiences, and insights from high school. Let's dive right in. So Siya, thank you for being here. Could you start by sharing with our viewers a little bit about yourself, your work, and what you're majorly involved with in high school?
Hi, yeah, of course. So a little bit about me. A fun fact about me is that I'm a triplet. I really enjoy painting, I like writing, and of course, I like STEM. So originally, I didn't know I was into STEM. Freshman and sophomore year, I was a math girly. I won like a few math awards, and I mostly focused on math. I thought that maybe I'd pursue a career in math. But then, of course, as I started taking more AP classes, I started reading these cool things online, and I was like, oh, I like STEM. So after that, that definitely changed into like from STEM specifically into bioengineering was more of the summer of junior year. So I found more of my specialty and my passion like later on in high school, but it is majorly what I'm involved with high school. So I've done varsity cross country all 4 years. I did academic quiz team, which is pretty much like a few nerds get together and like we have trivia competitions. I've done DECA. I would definitely say that's where my passion for business and marketing came. I did DECA junior and senior year. I'm still doing it. I qualified for nationals for this marketing event, and that's where I realized that I really like public speaking and marketing. Along with that, especially like after junior year, I've been more involved less with clubs and more with like personal projects like the NeuroNuggets science writing or any engineering project that I wanted to start.
Yeah, that all sounds so cool. I like how you mentioned that you got interested in business from DECA. How did you first venture into any of your STEM fields and business? Because I know you want to study bioengineering. So, what was your first taste into bioengineering and business?
So my first taste for bioengineering was definitely through Mite semester. Before that, I mean, originally, like the medical field was always pushed onto me, so I thought I might just venture into the medical field. But then during Mite semester, it was a 6-month program through MIT. It's for like minority students, low income students. Um, I got to talk to other kids and I got to work on a few projects. I got to learn from a few like PhD professors about their field and like specific knowledge. And I realized that as much as I like helping people, I don't like it from the clinical sense. I like it more from the development sense. So I really discovered bioengineering through my semester when I did all the projects there. As for business, I actually used to not be very business mindseted. Freshman and sophomore year, I was pretty shy. I kind of stayed to myself. But then I think I mostly discovered business through tutoring and DECA. I've always been a tutor, freshman through senior year. And then I realized that tutoring is in such high demand and I could reach so many more people. So I turned that into like a little side business. And I realized that I enjoy doing business. And then through DECA, I got to meet with like other business professionals. I got to really see the world. I never really understood what business was. I just kind of thought it was all numbers. But then I realized there's so much more creativity and development in it. And you can always connect business with STEM. And that's when I first got into that.
Yes, there's a lot of communication involved in business too. And with STEM, and STEM is one thing, but communicating what you're doing in STEM is definitely really important. So those fields align very well. Which field are you leaning towards for college though? Which ones do you find more interesting or are planning to major in? Kind of STEM medicine or business?
Definitely STEM medicine, more of like the regenerative medicine side. So regenerative medicine is something that's the reason I like bioengineering so much. I discovered regenerative medicine first and I wanted to see what major applies to regenerative medicine. Honestly, I call myself the regenerative medicine nerd. I know so much about like this niche field. So definitely at Harvard, because they have like majors and minors, but you go in undecided. So I'll definitely be going in with the bioengineering track, and they have a few subtracks. So I'll be doing more of the chemical and tissue engineering subtrack instead of the mechanical engineering track, which is focused more for business. I mean, I will minor in business there, but more on the medicine side.
Yeah, good to know. So, STEM is widely considered a rigorous field. It's definitely on the far end of the spectrum. And we know you have to be hardworking, study well, put in the repetitions. We know that. But do you think there are any underlooked qualities not mentioned or talked about as much, but still extremely important for achieving success in the STEM fields?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's less about being the smartest in the room and more about being okay with not being the smartest in the room. So I've noticed a lot about STEM has been learning how to accept failure and not, I guess, not having too much of an ego or not thinking that you're done because your progress, your research in STEM is never done. Along with that, a more technical skill is data analysis. So I did not know this. I thought that as long as I just understand science, I'll be fine. But if you want to go into any sort of research or industry field in STEM, which is very common careers, you need to be good at math and data analysis because oftentimes we have access to so many databases, but we need to understand that data. So I think that if someone is interested in pursuing a career in STEM, definitely have like a strong background in math and data analysis because it helps very much. Um, Along with that, reading. So part of understanding your field is understanding the current literature. And this is why I started NeuroNuggets, is because the current literature is so hard to understand and read because of the language and the length. So I do think that if you do plan on pursuing a career in that, you need to like build your skills in reading scientific literature.
Yeah, and math is definitely really important. I like that you said data analysis. That's becoming a very prevalent field. So this ties in perfectly because you said you did math early on in high school, your freshman and sophomore years. So that's awesome. And then NeuroNuggets, I actually would like to hear more about that. So I know you founded this, it's a science communication journal, but we'd love to hear it from your perspective. And why do you think that communication is such a big part of STEM? And how does NeuroNuggets kind of tie into your whole story?
Yeah, of course. So I started NeuroNuggets sometime like early 2024. And for me, it was more of just a little passion project on the side. I would often catch myself reading really interesting things and would have no one to talk to about. So I would just write these articles. And then during my semester, I took a science communications course and I realized that my passion for writing about science actually fits well into science communications and communicating new discoveries or complex topics in an easier way for the general audience to understand. I do think science communications is something that is so undervalued, but it's definitely going to take off in the next few years because there is definitely a gap between scientific reasoning and the general audience. I mean, there's breakthroughs every single day. Like just recently, we created a wolf, which was pretty cool, and not many people know about it. There's so many breakthroughs in the world that impact so many people. Basic knowledge that I just think everyone should have, but we don't, obviously, because it's so hard to understand. Also, historically speaking, a lot of the STEM majors, they were taught to excel in STEM. They were not taught marketing or business skills. So their skills and their findings were never relayed to the general audience. So NeuroNuggets, our goal is to bring on science writers and we all kind of research and write about recent developments or interesting developments in science and then publish those to bridge that gap of communication.
Amazing. That sounds very cool. I'll be sure to link that in the description for our viewers. Sounds like an amazing thing you're doing. And I know that you're also a two-time DECA national qualifier, so I love this business aspect of you. Could you share a little bit about your experience with this, as well as what were some of your major projects in these DECA competitions about?
So, DECA, there's multiple different fields. I'm better at kind of coming up with ideas and talking. So, the field I did was not developing a project. I did buying and merchandising team decision making. So, my partner and I, we take a 100 question business test in an hour, and then our score gets averaged. And then at role play time, which is in person, we get 30 minutes to look over a business problem or like a business concept. And then we get 15 minutes to present our solution and our marketing strategies to judges that then judge our role play. So I think the best aspect of this was just having to think on my feet as well as putting in the work for your test. I mean, the thinking on your feet part, people can develop that over time as they get better at speaking with others and as they study marketing strategies. But I think the test is very difficult. The average score is about 70, but to make it to nationals, to do good at nationals, you need a high 80 or like in the 90s preferably. And that required a lot of work. So that definitely built my work ethic because I spent so much time practicing on these tests. And I guess a project that I did develop from this, I'm the president of our DECA chapter. So I created this training module where like there's like data spreadsheets and it has all the learning resources linked for every single DECA question, and it helps you train yourself on the DECA test and improve your score.
Wow, that sounds very nice. I really like that you said quick thinking. I think, regardless of if it's business, STEM, whatever, just kind of getting something wrong and then reiterating, like having that skill to just figure out how to pivot is so important. So, thanks for mentioning that. And then, Sia, I know you've done a lot of research in high school and you've done MITES in high school. So, for those of you who don't know, MITES is the MIT Introduction to Technology, Engineering, and Science. So, could you talk a little bit about this experience for our viewers as well as the research that you did?
Yeah, of course. Well, I would definitely say this was a life-changing experience. Out of everything that I've done, this has impacted me the most. It changed me the most. It gave me the confidence to apply to Harvard. I wasn't even going to apply. And it's a community of people that you meet that stick with you forever. People who give you knowledge, people who give you confidence. But more on the technical side. So I didn't do a full-on research project there. I just started it, and then I'm still developing and working on it right now. So I started two things. I worked on this bioengineering project. It was very specific. So my team and I were interested in gene editing. So SpaceX will be launching a project to Mars soon, and we wanted to create plants that are UV resistant, resistant to temperature, and resistant to water drops, like water level going down. So we chose a plant called Arabidopsis, and it's a tiny flowering plant. We know its full genome. We understand all the genes, how they function, and what they control, which is pretty good specimen to work with. And then my my side of the project was to work on UV radiation. So I was studying different extremophilic microorganisms like the tardigrade bear, cyanobacteria, and I was studying their genomes to find which specific genes and proteins code for UV resistance. And a specific protein I found was the D-sub protein, which was very interesting. So then we drafted a research proposal. I'm still working on getting this project into a lab, hopefully at Harvard. But we drafted a research proposal. We have all the specific genes, proteins, methodologies, and how exactly we would edit this Arabidopsis plant to hopefully make it more UV resistant, more temperature resistant, and more resistant to water level changes. The other project that I started, my brother started it, and I'm now helping him develop and work on it, is engineering a hybrid vertical axis wind turbine. So right now, a vertical axis wind turbine, it's different than the windmills that we see. They're a lot smaller and they spin on a vertical axis. So there's two current models on the market, but they don't function very efficiently in city wind speeds. So we are developing a model that produces enough energy efficiently and cost efficiently and power efficiently in all wind speeds in the city. We've got all the testing done, and now we're just gathering the funds and resources for building the prototype. So the prototype's like 50% done. But I'd say those are like my two major projects.
Yeah, those both sound very amazing. So, I know that you've done research for the Cincinnati Regional Science Fair as well. You've gotten first place at that. And listening to those projects, I feel like you definitely deserve to get first place. What was your project for the regional fair? Was it one of those two or something else?
Yes, it's the engineering project, the vertical axis wind turbine. We've been presenting it to lots of different science fair companies. We've been presenting at business competitions. Recently we pitched it to Messer, and honestly, now we're just in the phase of like trying to secure funding for it. So from the Cincinnati Regional Science Fair, we won $650, which is good for 3D printing because 3D printing is very expensive. But yeah, we're just in the process of like making it a viable commercial market.
Yeah, I love that. So, with such a busy life that you've had in high school, how did you and how do you still balance your time between school, your extracurriculars, your passion projects, and your personal, family, and friends time?
I would say it's easy to have friends that are also kind of interested in the same things as you. So I would describe myself as someone who's like very passionate about STEM. I mean, my friends are not passionate about STEM, but they're still passionate about like their own fields and careers. So it's good. It's definitely good to surround yourself with people who have that same passion and drive as you. So like they understand your schedule, and it's easier to connect with them. It's easier to know like, yes, I haven't talked to you in a week, but that's because we're both busy. So I guess you could call it low maintenance friends. They're amazing. It's so great. Um, as for extracurriculars, so I was not good at balancing it before. Junior year, I completely overboarded myself and I would get no sleep. I was super stressed. I spread myself too thin. Um, and I say the biggest thing I would say is don't take on too many things to pad up your resume. I mean, the biggest problem I see with applications right now, and I think maybe that's why people are getting rejected, is because they take on too many projects, but those projects are shallow. Instead, do like the few things you love, even if you have to miss out on some other opportunities, but really develop those projects and show your skills, show your impact, show your passion in that project. I think that's a lot more meaningful. Um, as for like communication and marketing, I have to tell myself that it's okay to not respond right away. Before, like, I'd be up all night responding to people, getting things done. I just think you have to set a strict boundary of if I need a break day, I need a break day, regardless of who's waiting for what. Or if I need some time off, like I'll put my computer away after 11:30 and everything else can wait. I just think setting those boundaries, it's so healthy because then you don't burn out and also like lack of sleep. You have to get enough sleep.
Oh, yeah. I love that you mentioned just setting a boundary with your technology. It's so hard to be like, let me just reply back to this text and not go to sleep, but sleep really important. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Um, what were some of the strategies that you've used to kind of help set that boundary? Like, do you put your phone in a different room or do you just like block all the other apps? What's something that's helped you?
Well, I like to call it exposure therapy, where I will see the text message or I will see the task, I will look at it, I will acknowledge it, and I'll tell myself it can wait for tomorrow. I mean, it depends on the emergency of the task. Usually like if it's due that night or if it's super important, I'll do it. I'm not saying like always prioritize sleep, prioritize your project, then prioritize your sleep, but I mean, there's just so much work ahead you can do. If it's not due tonight, I I just make a list and I tell myself if it's due at the end of the week, I will get it done in a timely manner. I mean, at first, I would have to like full on put my computer away or let it die. And then once it's dead, I can't work on it. As for my phone, I wouldn't say I have trouble with my phone just because all my communication happens on the computer. But I recommend like exposure therapy. You have to look at the message and tell yourself not to respond because you don't have the time.
That's something unique I've heard of exposure therapy. Very nice. So, could you talk to us now about being a manager at your family owned Dairy Queen? So, your family owns a Dairy Queen, correct? And
Yes.
as a high schooler, you were a manager at this fast food chain. So, that is very unique. How did you find this experience and how do you think it's helped you maybe develop your business interests or just really like spending time with your family? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I'd definitely say it teaches you to one, value your time, value your money, and how to interact with people politely and like in just in a good manner, I guess. Manners and like politeness and respect, I think you really have to learn that and like learn how to communicate with people, how to work with customer complaints, how to work with an angry customer, how to make a customer happy. I mean, those aspects are so important, and I think that no matter what someone is doing what is going on, they should definitely have a job in fast food because it teaches you all of that. It teaches you to value your money. I mean, I would start seeing prices and be like, oh, this is how many hours I would have to work to afford that. And that's a good skill to have. But I'd say the most important thing that I've taken away from that is just dealing with people, even when you're tired, like if you're working a long shift. Dealing with people and knowing how to effectively deal with people is definitely an important skill. And working in fast food definitely teaches you
Oh
that.
yeah, like the communication aspect of it and just,
Yes.
bringing a smile to your face, that is really important. Hands down to you for being able to do that as well as being a manager. So, did you have a lot of people to lead? Were they like high schoolers? Were they younger than you, older than you? How was that?
Well, it was definitely a diverse team. I mean, I've seen a lot of people come in and out. I mean, I was friendly with them. I was nice with them. We hung out. Like, it was great. It was a great environment. I mean, but I think the environment is created by the people, and I would say the people were great, so the environment was pretty good.
For sure. So, high school years totally can be incredibly formative. What are some of the leadership roles or internships or opportunities that you leveraged during high school that helped shape who you are today?
So I didn't really have a strategy or a plan, but what I would say now that I appreciate that I did this without realizing that I was doing it is freshman and sophomore year, it's all about like finding what you like. So I was taking on every single opportunity. My school is pretty good about posting opportunities, whether it's internships, whether it's just programs, shadowing, volunteering, and I would take up all of those, any sort of workshop to make sure that I'm getting experience and I know what it's like. So, freshman and sophomore year, I would shadow at hospitals, shadow doctors, shadow a bank. I would go to resume building workshops. I would go to any sort of meet and greet where there'd be companies who would talk about like a career there and they would talk about different careers in a specific major that you might want to choose. So that was definitely good. As for leadership, I used to be a part of Key Club. I was the president of Key Club, but junior year I had to start prioritizing my time, so I did leave that position. I gave it to somebody else. Right now, my main leadership position is being a DECA president. I mean this is advice that I would give everybody, and if you have to take away anything, take away this. It's not about how many leadership positions you have, but like what you do with it. So, I mean, especially at my school, like people will be the president of something or the officer of something. But I think outside of the title, like if you take away the title, there has to be something that stands behind it. And I would definitely tell people to do that. If you put any sort of leadership on your application or your resume or you tell people about it, make sure that you have done a significant amount of work using that position instead of just gaining that position and then calling it quits.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for highlighting that. High school is great, right? I love all the opportunities that you leveraged. I like that you talked about trying different things early on. That definitely helps because then junior and senior year, you can focus on what you found most helpful or found most like meaningful towards you and then do things in that. So that is a great tip. But college presents even more opportunities. So, have you started looking into some of the resources that Harvard will offer that you think will help you delve deeper into either your bioengineering or business interests?
Yeah. So the great thing about Harvard is that they're great about funding and providing resources for viable ideas. So I've been looking into their business and technology center. They also have a stem cell center, which I'm super thrilled about. I love stem cells. It is like I get so pumped when I read anything about stem cells. So for the business and tech center, they provide lots of resources for startup businesses. In this engineering project, this wind turbine that we're building, I definitely want to bring it into some sort of business, make a business around it, maybe sell it, capitalize off of it. And I've been looking into the business and tech center, and they definitely have the resources for that, the funding and the mentorship, which is great. I definitely need that. As for the stem cell center, they are doing research that like I'm specifically interested in. So I've been super obsessed with cardiac regeneration, like how you can use different genes to code your stem cells into pluripotent stem cells and then have them grow into a fully functioning heart using bioprinting and all the other STEM that goes into that. And the Stem Cell Center is specifically dedicated just for that. And very few universities have a whole building dedicated to stem cells. So that is definitely something I'll be capitalizing off of.
Yeah, that is very unique. And I love your entrepreneurial mindset with the windmill that you're doing. That's like really nice how you're combining your business interests with the research project you started. So I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
Any amount of success, though, comes challenges and failures. So could you share a time when you faced a significant obstacle in your journey and how you overcame it?
Yeah, of course. So right off the bat, I can think of two. The first one is a little more cliche. So as I said, like my writing skills were not very good. Um I would also say I didn't develop my passions and interests as well on my application. So the biggest, I think, failure of I always thought like, oh, I'm doing good in school, so I'll be fine. But then I started applying to these research programs, these leadership programs, and I had one rejection after another. So I guess it's not a physical obstacle, but it was definitely something that hits you really hard in your confidence and it makes you start thinking that maybe you're not good enough. And I definitely had a lot of self doubt because of that. Just applying to things and being rejected from everything. I mean, that hits hard. A more physical one, I hosted a 5K race. It was for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We were raising money for this family whose son was hit by a drunk driver. It was a little campaigning thing we did. It was I don't not a part of them right now, but it was really fun while I did do it. And my job was finding sponsors. So at the time I wanted to work on my speaking and marketing skills, and I would drive around for hours going to different businesses, working with them, trying to get sponsors, and I couldn't. Nobody wanted to sponsor this race. They would turn me down, they wouldn't respond to my emails, or they would just simply ghost me. They tell me they would and then they wouldn't. That was definitely a big obstacle. I think for a month I got no sponsors. But of course from that I was starting to realize that maybe I'm not getting the point across in an effective way. So I did pivot. I changed my approach, and from that I we did get 7 sponsors, which is that was definitely great for somebody who's never hosted a 5K race. That was very successful. We did end up getting 7 sponsors. So my takeaway from this was even though I've had so many failures, it only takes one success to change everything.
I love how you phrase that. So first for the rejections, like having that mental like diminishing confidence is something that's really scary. And just like having that understanding that hey, you can still do good and maybe they didn't see your value and your potential there is really crucial. For the 5K race, with securing sponsors, what kind of strategies did you end up using to secure them? So you must have changed something in your marketing, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us
So
about that?
before I was using a more like universal approach. So the I would approach Buckeye Running Company the same way I would approach the Tri-State Running Company. I wasn't really personalizing it. I wasn't really building rapport, but then I realized that instead of trying to just mass communicate my goal, mass marketing strategy from DECA, it's a vocab term, I started personalizing my approach. So I would cater it. I would try to like build rapport with the business owner. I would really like talk to him in person before it was like through emails, FaceTimes, or just like casually walking in, giving him my card and leaving. But after that, I would go in, I would actually talk to them and show them our website, explain to them our goal, show them our podcast and our videos and what we were doing. And after that, they would realize just how much it meant to us. And I would explain to them like everything, all the risks involved, and how it was still a new project because it was our first 5K race ever. And that was very successful because they understand what it means to be like a struggling high schooler just trying to gain experience. So for anyone who is looking to find sponsors, which I don't know if you are, but if you are, definitely customize it to the person because in the end, you're asking them for their money. So you have to show them why they should spend that money.
Yeah, for sure. Really personalizing and using that authenticity, kind of showing your authentic self, is definitely crucial to building real connections. So, thank you for sharing that with us. For our next question, this is recurring among our viewers. Everyone has big dreams, Everyone wants to do all these cool things, do all these amazing projects, but resisting the temptation to spend away full blocks of time on our phones is a struggle for many. So, what are some tips you would give to your younger self for prioritizing getting work done?
I would definitely say, well, two things. Don't overload yourself. When you're feeling motivated, don't take on 80 tasks at once and then that motivation runs out. Second thing is learn to work not on motivation, but discipline because your motivation will always fluctuate. I mean, there were months in a row where I just wasn't feeling motivated. I like wasn't seeing the point. It was like not a low period in life, but I wasn't very into school. You know, I guess you could call it senioritis, but you have to fend that off with discipline. Like you have, it's kind of like going to the gym. You have to know that whether you want to do it or not, you have to do it. It becomes a chore. Even if you don't enjoy it at the time, it will pay off later because you will get out of that unmotivated block. Um, the third thing I would say, which I would say was the most important thing for getting myself to get work done when I wasn't feeling motivated, is to do something creative, like stimulate your creativity. Oftentimes, we find ourselves doing our work in the same area, in the same environment, around the same people. So, changing up your environment, changing up your study style, changing up the people around you when you're studying, it helps. I mean, I found that it helps me when I'm getting bored in my room, I'll just go and do my work in the basement, or I'll go and do my work outside, or I'll go and do my work in the kitchen. And just that change of environment, it kind of stimulates my brain. It like makes me feel more creative, more refreshed, and it like gives me that extra boost to get my work done.
Oh yeah, a change in environment is really helpful. I do this too. Like if I'm bored in my room, I'll go to another room or go in our media room or just like outside. It's being in nature also helps a lot. So this
Yes,
is
definitely.
great and I highly recommend it. So for our last question of this podcast, if you were to have a heart-to-heart, girl-to-girl conversation with an aspiring girl in the STEM fields, what final like piece of real unfiltered advice would you give her?
Okay, for this, I would say three things. So the first one is a little more broad, but it is so important. And I do think this is what got me into Harvard. Um, is do not compare yourself and don't try to make your application or resume look like others. So my test scores are in like the bottom 50 percentile for Harvard. My extracurriculars look different. I haven't been doing crazy things, crazy awards since day one. This is more recent. It's more like summer of junior year. So I would say don't compare yourself to others because your application should reflect you. You have to ask yourself that if you take away all your titles, all your achievements, who are you outside of that? Like you are not a two-time DECA national winner. You are a STEM girly. And what does a STEM girly do? You know, and you have to show your application has to reflect you and not just achievements that you want to pad up your application. Um, as for STEM, you have to show your passion. So making it in the science field is very difficult and it's a long journey. So if you don't have passion, you probably won't make it. And I assure you, you definitely have the passion. You just have to show it on your application. So no matter what grade you're in, start a passion project. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be with any company or any research lab. You can do something as simple as I did and just start a writing company, which was me writing articles and getting other people to write articles with me. It just has to be something that shows your skill. And the third advice is to develop a universal skill. So currently there's three skills in demand: computer science, data analysis, and marketing. So if you show that you are working on that skill or you've recognized the importance of one of those three skills and that you're willing to develop that skill, then it will look very good on your application. And I know it's a very specific thing, but 10 out of 10, I recommend you work on one of those and it will definitely help you out in the future.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so, so much for those tips. And really, a huge thank you for just being so open and authentic with all of the questions that we asked you today. Your stories, tips, and unfiltered advice were absolutely inspiring, Sia, and so motivational. So it was such a privilege to have you on Computer Science. To all our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, Share this episode with your friends and leave us a review. It helps us connect more ambitious girls to amazing STEM role models. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and chasing those dreams. See you soon on Computer Science.